Streaming from outside the mainstream, Beyond a Pale, the podcast, hosted by Paleface.
Today's guest is a relationship photographer and host of LifePix Relationships Podcast. Using journaling, art, and photography, she teaches people how to express their emotions, thoughts, and desires. ST Rappaport, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here talking with you today.
It's great to have you. I was excited. So ST, can you share a little bit about your background with my audience, please?
Sure. So like you said, I'm a relationship photographer as I take pictures for couples only. I was always into photography, but what I loved most about photography was how people connect and how you could see their real emotion. So I went into relationship photography because that is where you see people the most. You see people connect the love and their true emotions. What I would do with my couples is I would have them get to their ultimate desires and love and connection they have, and then they would choose a picture that they thought was the best, and they would hang it up in big on their wall like a vision board. Yeah. And that was great. Like, I really think it's really good, and it sets your mind in the right direction. And if something happens, you can always go back to it and you know where you're headed towards. But right. It's very basic. It only sets the first step. So I was looking for something else to help people and help relationships. And I came across this thing called Creative Journal Expressive Arts, which uses writing with your non-dominant hand and art to access the subconscious mind. Yeah. And that's then you really, cool. Yeah.
So you use your non-dominant hand to do it?
Yeah. The hand you don't usually use to write with.
Wow. I don't even know if I have terrible writing with my non-dominant hand. With my left hand, it's terrible. So I guess people get used to it. And then what do you think that brings them, that ties them into their subconscious?
Yeah, it ties them into their subconscious. And it's also that side of the brain is in charge of emotions. The right brain is in charge of emotions together with creativity. So for most people, when you're right, it's their left hand and they're using their right brain. So you don't have all the logic reasoning that gets in the way in regular day-to-day life, and you get to really understand what's happening.
That's interesting, because you do hear about people who are right brain and left brain together. And actually, I think I'm one of those, because I love technology, a lot of things that people would consider would be logical, but I like creativity. So I might have to start using my left hand a lot more than to be able to tap into that more. So what else does the subconscious help you do as far as being able to help move you forward as a human?
So you have all your answers in you already. Like, your subconscious mind knows everything really that you want, but we get blocked by all the other decisions, the logic, reasoning, what other people say. You're not sure when you make a decision, but you really know the answer. It's in your subconscious mind that knows what's right for you. And even if you don't know, by the end of the day, if you really listen to your intuition and your subconscious mind, it will stop you from dangerous stuff, from going to different places. Like recently, one of my colleagues in this CJA was telling me she was meant to fly abroad in February or something. And she was journaling, and he told her, she had a really good opportunity, a really good ticket and stuff, but she wasn't really so sure. And in journaling, it came out I want to stop you from the coronavirus. And she was like, okay, coronavirus wasn't even anywhere near here and anything like that. But later on, she found out just when she was meant to be there, it hit that country really, really hard. Oh. So there's things that we don't know. When our subconscious minds work together, then you could really understand much more.
Yeah, they say that there is a human consciousness that is, if we all tapped in it together, we'd be surprised at all the energy that's there. So that's interesting.
Yeah. So sometimes what we do is we journal with both hands. We go back and forth with asking questions logically with the dominant hand and answering with the non-dominant hand. So you use both sides of your brain. But sometimes I do that like with a conversation between two different people. So let's say I wanted to speak with you and tell you something, but wasn't sure how the conversation would go. I would write my part with the dominant hand and answer with my non-dominant hand, because then I'm accessing the greater subconscious and I could almost know what you're saying.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. I've never heard of anything like this before. This is so neat. I love the idea of this. So is it always with the writing, or is there other mixed medium that goes into this? So of course, I'm sure that you also bring photography into this, right?
Right. So photography was my own mix into it. It wasn't especially done. And that's what I like special, like the person who made it up, Dr. Lucia Capicchione, very much like encourages every person to bring in their own stuff, because I like that. Because then like you're not stuck to way, this is the way that's only that. Like
Right.
this is the way that it is, and that's what it is. And there's no one size fits all. So I brought in photography, but they do use a lot of, as the name says, expressive arts, all sorts of medium of art, painting, collaging, clay, music, dance, everything. Also to open up that brain and let out emotion.
That's great. So with that, do you find that even you said when people put their, their life story, their pictures on the wall, basically that it reminds them, it takes them back to a point where they can think about a relationship, right? It reminds them about what I think is important and where they were at the time when they were taking that. Do you think that also that photography also is able to dig into your subconscious and pull out things that are a motive that you might not normally be feeling on the surface?
Like during the photo shoot or after?
Both, for example. I mean, you tell me. This is interesting. I'd like to listen to people. So you answer it the way you want to answer this.
Okay, so during the photo shoot, I don't know, because people are much more reserved when they have like another person watching them. So it does take a lot of work to actually get out that real emotion. But I'm very like candid and like what they do and have fun. So it's very possible when they do get into having a lot of fun and are really enjoying themselves, then it brings out more stuff. It's not your regular day-to-day routine. So you have what's really there. What we do after with having the picture on the wall is we journal with the picture. We ask questions to the picture with the non-dominant hand, and then goes like straight. Yeah, you get the answers from your subconscious. Like, how do I get that? And you'll get your answer. Or what's stopping me from getting that? And you'll get your answer.
That's great. So the next thing I have to ask you now is I want to talk about LifePix Relationships Podcast. So what led you to create that podcast?
So like you, I like listening and I like learning.
It's a great way
Really?
to learn things, isn't it?
Literally, like I always like watch people and just try to figure out how things work, and especially in relationships, like how people connect. I really, really find that interesting. And I found that a great way for me to be able to go and literally pick people's brains and find out what they did to make their relationship extraordinary, because not always could you ask everyone that. But for a podcast, you could, especially afterwards, once they're on the podcast, and like they'll tell me stuff that they don't especially want to share. You get really, really deep discussions through it, and really to help people through it. I'm very much into concrete things that people could come out of it. Like the thing I tell guests, hear what people could get out of here, because I think that relationships could be really complicating, but they could be amazing and beautiful and give you so much energy for life. So what could you do? Like finding out the ways that people could go and make their relationships amazing.
Right. I've listened to some of your podcasts and they're interesting. One that was on active listening, which I think is a great thing to do regarding just how you interact with anybody in your life, is to be an active listener. So what did you learn about active listening from that podcast?
Active listening is something I actually found a very big, like a common thread between a lot of the people that have amazing relationships.
Right.
It's really hard for some people to do. Some people have it more naturally and then they could build on it, but it's something that you really have to train yourself to do. But once you do it, you like really enjoy doing it. Like you, I'm sure you could say, someone who loves listening, you want to actively listen. You want to show the person that you're there. You want to ask questions. You want to find out. You're coming from a place of real curiosity and trying to understand what's happening.
Right.
And it opens up your mind to new things that you never thought of before. You could really understand the situation. You could understand the other person. You could understand yourself and just learn so much.
I think that's great. I also know that there's something that I try to use as that empathic listening, where you look for cues from people where something might have an emotional response when you're talking to them. And then you can help dig deeper. I find that's another way that you can dig deep into somebody and be able to determine what's really behind something. Because a lot of times, so much of what our conversation is with people is on the surface. It's not until I think that we get to emotion that we actually find that there are some deeper issues there, or some deeper concerns, or just their desires. So that's really interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, literally, you could like listen to people like they're scared, but what they're really scared about, and they'll say one thing, but as you really have a conversation with them and you listen to them and get to like the root of their fear, like, okay, so I can help you with that, or that's something that is really valid. Let's go and figure this out. And then you really solve things and you really understand things so much better.
Right. So how important do you think it is to get trust from people when you're having conversations to help them be able to open up or share properly?
If you want them to open up and share, you have to show trust is really, really important. It's the first thing.
Right.
I think it goes together with understanding, showing them that you understand, because they're trusting you that you're going to understand what they're saying, that you're not going to share it with people who are not meant to be heard about this.
Right.
And the faster you show them that you're trustworthy, the faster they'll open up to you. But every person also has their own stories. Like a lot of people have trust issues and have a very hard time trusting people. So that will take time. But I do believe that you could break through to them and show them that you're trustworthy. You like prove it to them with like little small things over and over again. And then they could like really open up to you.
Right. And I think it's good to show some vulnerability yourself. I think if you can show vulnerability, then people can show it back. So
yeah,
I urge people to show vulnerability to those around them. It's okay. They're not going to hurt you. They really won't. So ST, is there anything that you would like to leave the audience with before we close out the show today?
Well, I like to tell people, just be yourself. There's so many, like the saying goes, everyone else is already taken. But really, really be yourself. Don't be afraid to do what other people do, to do different than what other people do. Because like you said, vulnerability, it's you. The people that like the true you will be attracted to you, and you'll be able to do what you really want to do. Yeah. And if you want learn more about creative journal expressive arts, like I'm a very big believer that once you have the tools, you could go and do it by yourself. So I'm giving free sessions, mini sessions with people to just get the tools and mini sessions so they could start doing it. And they go to LifePix Relationships.as.me, and I'll love to chat with you.
So that's cool. Well, I urge all of you to check out ST Show, the LifePix podcast. ST Rappaport, it has been enlightening. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Godspeed.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Beyond a Pale, the podcast.